a stop motion film on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you could slightly move his arm every couple seconds.
Yeah, we're just gonna.
My favorite was
Oh, God. Yeah, man, too old for this. Sure. How are y'all?
Hey, you doing all right?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's my last chance to see folks in California. I apologize for being late. I had to do an acclaimed video game they got out. I didn't know nothing about it, so I had this sheet, and I'm trying to pretend I know what I'm talking about. So it took several cuts. I don't know if you read the book yet or not. I certainly hope you enjoy it, and if you ever have any questions while we're doing it, I think I was asked to say something. You know, if someone was asking me to say, tell me about wrestling, I don't know. But if you ask me a pointed question, man, you can't shut me up. So I kind of thought that maybe it'd be neat if I'll try to get to each one individually. And I'd like to say hi, and not just rush it. And I'll keep the microphone here, and if someone's got a question, something, shout it out. I don't care if it's good, bad, or indifferent. You don't like me, just join my wife, which I love. 23 years, October 12th, we've been married, man. She gave me 4 of the most beautiful children in the world. Yeah. It's the only reason I'm alive. Well, I thought, I'd love to talk to you, but in just me rattling on, maybe I can lower it and talk to you individually, and as you got questions, I can answer them so everybody can hear them. And hey, now's the time. Don't be shy, man. I come to tell you the truth. So I'll bring this down like this. This is usually for the Haiti kid or something. He got no hair. Took that away a long time ago. Of course, Holman's got no hair either. But he's not a midget. I think I'll leave this on for a second. Gets a little cold. Please. Come on. Great. Yeah, this was the very first Roddy Piper. This is the very first Roddy Piper doll. One of the biggest ones ever made. And I often wondered with the kids, maybe you could help me with this. I was kind of worried at night times because I didn't know what they were doing when they took the kilt off. Yeah. No, I'm sure you did fine, but that was the first time you walk in and you see a doll of yourself, and it's kind of a strange feeling. So the next thing I did is rush home and get the residuals. But that's really nice of you, man. How old were you when you got this?
10 years old.
God bless you, man. You sure turned into a fine man. Yeah, who can I sign this to? Ryan, all right. The Goonies? Oh my goodness. Yes. It was on, so I had this much padding. I could still figure I knocked him out. I was in a camp for 5 weeks at Holyfield and Tyson Braxton stuff in Reno with Lou Duva, and I came out, and I really wanted him to take a shot at me, so I could justify taking him out. But the third round, I was so frustrated, I just picked up the stool and I whipped it at him as hard as I could. Took a big hunk out of his leg, but he wouldn't take a shot at me, and then I would have got fired if I'd taken him out. And I was like, but the thing was, the whole arena just started chanting my name. And all of a sudden, I was a good guy. What the heck's going on here? It's got to be that Sybil Piper thing I got going. I'm not a Mr. T fan. I guess I didn't have to say that last one, huh? All right,
Yep, mic's still on.
God bless you. It's my pleasure. Thanks for coming up. Hey, guys. How you doing, sir? Pleasure to meet you. And I stayed in youth hostels and stuff, and there was this song Elvis Presley sang. Patches, I'm dependent on you, son. The crops are growing, and have some fun, and whatever else I got it done. And, the farm is growing, and the crops are strong, and I take care of your mother. And so I wore a kilt, and I was young, and I had a guy closest to me, like 27, and he used to call me Patches Piper because I only had my kilt and my jeans. And I hated that name, man. But the problem was, didn't matter how much I got angry, I'd jump up in the dressing room, I'd look around, there was nobody I could beat up. What are you supposed to do? And then Bait, they called me Bait because close guy, maybe like 27, 28, and they'd sneak me in a bar and they'd go, we want to meet that girl. Yeah, and they kind of reel me out. And then at the end of the evening, I'd be sitting in my hotel room watching HBO, everybody else is having fun. And that's why they call me Bait, but not very proud of that one. Thanks very much. Sure appreciate you coming and seeing me. No, God bless you, man. Yeah, that's why they call me. Oh. You want me to sign it now? You get it notarized. All right, buddy. This is me. That's the bottom. Text. When he paid it, says, oh, that Piper talks a lot.
Sign the legal document.
God bless you. Thank you for coming up, sir. Hello, sir. Nice pleasure to meet you. How are you?
Sing Billy
Time to
Jean.
reload. Yeah, if they like you, they let you live. Yeah, sure. What was it again? Which one? Oh, yeah. I was trying to forget.
Who was it that messed with your blog?
Okay, I'll tell you the truth. Oh, is that a Playboy magazine? Thought you were lending it to me. I got a long trip ahead. I'm not at home, Scott, that's to the grave, sir. Again?
No. You are the greatest holder. Consider him the second.
Well, thank you, sir.
That's right.
Well, I got called a racist for this one. I wish I was the worst thing they called me. Bad News Brown was a fella. I've done this all my life, Rog. You know how to do this. Bad News Brown. Was a gentleman that went to the Olympics, a black gentleman for judo. Anybody that can get to the Olympics, I got so much respect for the discipline, etc. However, I was called into a room in some place. There was Vince McMahon Jr., Pat Patterson, Bad News Brown sitting there. Come on up, Jim. Sitting there. And, the room's kind of tense, and I walk in, and come on, Jim. I walk in, and I sit down, and it's real quiet, and so they asked me, listen, we'd like you to fight Bad News Brown in Toronto. Yeah, okay. And I'm looking around, and nobody's saying nothing, and so I said, well, tell you what I'm going to do. And in my mind, I'm thinking Nelson Mandela at the time, Cyndi Lauper singing True Colors, and I said, I'm going to paint myself half black. Bad News Brown looks over at me, doesn't say a word. Vince McMahon picks his head up and says, I love you. I swear to you. So, but I was just, he's a great judo player, but, I have only so much to work with as a wrestler. So, okay, so here we go. So Vince McMahon gets a special solution that doesn't come off when you sweat by this chemist. And it's had, of course, this special solution to take it off. So I get black, straight down, all the way down, right down the middle. I'm black. And so I come out doing my best Michael Jackson imitation, everybody going, what the hell is he doing? To Scott.
Real quick, if you could sign it, Life's a Bitch, she's back in heat.
Okay, but you won't give me my address. All right, to Scott.
Or
Life. I thought you said my wife. Oh, stop. Life's, yeah. Well, it's been a long, 7,000.
You said it.
You betcha. Okay. I got Life's a bitch. It is, yeah. Life's a bitch. Back. That's what I got. My pleasure, sir.
And then, I got a quick question for you.
Sure.
So when you did when you were doing primetime wrestling,
Yes,
now it's
sir.
like, you and Heenan were like always going at it. Now,
Yeah.
Now, did you guys really have like heat between each other?
Well, there's always a competition factor of whatever you want to say about wrestling is, I want my check to be bigger than his. But the problem I ran into, he suckered me. He dressed up as Santa Claus one year.
Yeah, and that's what.
So I came over and I beat up Santa Claus, and holy cow! All the kids phone USA Network. Roddy Piper just beat up Santa Claus. No, I'm not the Grinch. But it was a pretty slick part of him, Bobby. Anyway, that's what what happened. But Bobby was a good man. He always used to just say to me, just please, Roddy, don't call me fat. He says, I got no place to go. You know, the first thing I do, Bobby, you look great. You've been working out. Look at those pecs. Look like I had 6 litters of puppies. Good job, you know. Hey, love me. Yeah, yeah, and so, you know, next. Yeah, God bless you, man.
Oh, if we can get a quick picture.
You betcha.
All right, get a badass pose going.
All right, come on, champ.
Okay, ready? Cool, beautiful.
God bless
Thank
you
you.
for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm coming, I go to the match and have this match out black.
You want me to lead it running?
Yep.
I finished the match. The match was very lackluster. How you doing, champ? My pleasure to meet you. What's your name? Mike. Okay. Match is pretty lackluster in my book. And I come back to the dressing room and the ladies, I'm ready to get this black stuff off. So the lady is there, lady makeup artist, and she starts working on my cheek with the solution, which is a clear solution. You know, she's rubbing for about 20 minutes. I'm starting to bleed. Okay, Rod. So what had happened was Andre the Giant and Arnold Skolin, while I was in the ring, had got the clear solution, poured it out, put water in. Yeah, but what am I going to do? Go beat him up? You know, so it just so happened I was going from Toronto to Portland, Oregon the next day. And so you got to picture this. I'm about 255 pounds, testosterone coming out of my every pore, my eyes lightening, and I'm half black. Under my right arm, I got my halberd, and under my left arm, I got a full-size Mickey Mouse. And I'm coming through the airport, and people are parting like the Nile. And I come to the customs guy, and the customs just goes, go ahead. No. And so I came in Chicago, I got in the plane, and I got some stewardess. I didn't have a good day or something, and she said, I'm sorry, sir, but you're going to have to check Mickey. Buy him a first-class seat. And Mickey and I got home, and it took me 2 weeks in the sauna rubbing to get that stuff off, and that's how that happened, man. Andre, you know, play a rib on you. I'm going to kick you. Never mind. Yeah, please. Draw it, champ. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tell us a Flair story.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, he got me in more trouble, man. Doc. Hi, Josh. My pleasure. How you doing, bud? Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. Ric Flair stories. We got kids here? Jeez, where can I start? Well, Ric Flair had quite a scam going on. He called me the John Wesley Harding of wrestling. And we fought in Kuwait and in San Domingo because I was blackballed and I could only fight out of the country. Well, Flair would do stuff like this. He'd walk into a bar and go, 99 kamikazes. You know, and it's just him and I. You know, so it took me a couple of months of Betty Ford to figure this out, but he was throwing his over his shoulder. Me, I was busy. They were free. I'm a Scotsman. So this one time we're in San Juan, the Briscoes are there, and Orso, this is 12 noon. We got to wrestle at 7, and you know we've been drinking pina coladas since we watched the sun come up because we didn't go to bed. And so Briscoes are there, and they challenge us to a game of basketball. Us being the blithering idiots we are, I don't play basketball. We're in our swimsuits and bare feet. Briscoes have cowboy boots on and jeans. So it took us about 20 minutes to figure out all the Briscoes were doing was passing the ball back and forth where Ric Flair and I in bare feet on concrete are going until like 20 minutes and they were bleeding. You know, I said, well, I think we're going to quit this game now. We all went and we got 5 tubes of Ambisol for your teeth because we had to wrestle that night. And we took turns on each other's feet because they were just rubbing this Ambisol, and then they hit it with new skin. You know, like, yeah! And we got through San Domingo, and that's kind of, you know, another thing he used to do is, God, doggone man, we'd be on an airplane. Must have done it 20 times, man. To Rick?
This one's
Gotcha. So it's like playing with a retard, isn't it? So one of Rick's favorite things to do was, jeez, man. Go ahead.
Hey, Pipes, what do you think?
Rick, I do not care. I'm sleeping. There he'd go in his Armani suit. He's a first-class gentleman, first of all. Dressed in his Armani suit, and he'd go to the first-class washroom, and somehow he'd get that unwanted suit off, and he'd get that big red robe of his on, and he was stark naked underneath. Now there's the 30-second place that we don't, it's kind of like the 18 seconds of Nixon. We don't know really what Rick does at that time, and I don't want to. But, again? To Rick. All right, would that be all right, CK?
Yeah, without it be.
Thank you. Thank you, CK. Rick, R-I-C-K. So then you get up and you come on out and you start dancing. You know, Rick, if you want that, woo, woo, when you be on the dance floor, dance all night, dance a little longer, dance all night. Pipes, come here. I don't want to come here. I'm still drinking. And so then he'd proceed to just wear his robe and serve everybody free kamikazes in the airplane. And then the police would come and we'd land and he'd blame it on me. And I ended up in jail in San Juan. You don't want to go to jail, not if you're a white boy. You know, or especially a Scottish white boy with Irish in him. And so I spent the day in jail. You betcha. You didn't expect him to have happy endings, did you? You know, read the book, almost died. God bless you, man. God bless you. Come on.
Mr. Harper, could you make it out to Alex?
Dang, you ain't robbing it, but you got a shotgun and sunglasses and bullets on you. Say something. Action! I come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubble gum. And that's how I said it, and that was all there was to it. It was an improv. And damn it, you know, I did 27 lines there. I practiced. You never caught on to one of them, then. Jeez, all right. Last January, I was dead. You'll read it. So, he's got a 4.0 average, so he's down here, and I says, you know, I was equating with James Dean. He said, who? James Dean. I used to eat a sausage in the morning. No. All right, was that 0.04 or 0.4? What was that? He got to the point where he got so vindictive with me, you know, bully, that he swore and he bet me $100, and he's a cheap son of a gun. And he bet me $100. He said, I said, you walk up to anybody and ask him. He was so confident. He says, there's those two girls. I'll walk up there. He walks up to me and says, have you ever heard of James Dean? They go, the actor? 4.0, huh? It's obviously in theology, Spanish, which is very honorable. God bless you, sir. Thanks for being here. All right, sir. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you. Oh, sure. What would you like me to put on here?
I mean, if you could sign it
The same thing? Sure, be my pleasure, sir. Okay. Let me get it on this way. That's a good name, man. Humbert? Very good. I knew I was going to sign it so many times, it was short and sane. I have come here. Chew gum or work bubble gum. Kick ass. That's all I want to do. What did I forget? All out bubble gum. Well, they could look at that as a collector's item. You know, but the other, all out of, or just looking like you did when the guy said 7,000 fights. Okay, I'll just leave that one alone. Sweet kid, nice kid, kind kid, kind you like to throw rocks at. H-U-M-B-E-R-T-O. Thanks, Bliss. Nice, sincerely, almost me. Thank you. Dog match, dog collar match, as somebody's talking about. There you go, sir. You're my pleasure. Oh, thanks so much. See if you grew up in
Is any
Mel,
see any
right?
Gilbert on it? Is that it? I'm gonna ask him all that.
That dog collar match, the way WrestleMania and all that got started was, I told you, $550,000 there at Larry Zbyszko against Bruno Sammartino in Shea Stadium, and that was done by the North. There was a very distinct Mason-Dixon line between the territories. They were they weren't ran by the government, but there was, in this particular case, Vince McMahon's territory went down to to Washington, D.C., and Crockett picked it up from Richmond, Norfolk, Richmond, and on. And then Atlanta, a guy named Barnett picked it up, and it was pretty serious business to swap lines. So Vince McMahon Sr., who's this to? Mike. Oh, right, I can spell your name, man. Would you just keep coming back, like, I'll give you books? Yeah, usually when they tell me to take a sip, it means I'm talking too much. A drink, that means I'm rocking way too much. Roddy, you're spelling my name for me now? Oh, it's a sad affair for Roddy. God bless you. You betcha. I get spells. Hello, sir.
Pleasure.
God bless you.
I met a long time ago at worked out at Vince's gym, late 80s. Remember in studio?
Vince's in studio, I worked out with John Schneider.
Yeah, I was there that summer.
God bless,
too.
he liked to kill me.
Yeah, he's a tough guy.
Not John, it's Vince.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Vince Garando. He trained like Dave Draper and Schwarzenegger, and he's trained me. I'm a fighter. I'm not a bodybuilder. He's got me all this, and Vince, he's an old crusty man. And he wears 17 T-shirts at that time to keep the thing going. And he had me. I was on a thing upside down. I'm supposed to pull myself up, and he put John Schneider with me to train. I came out in great shape, but I looked great, but I couldn't fight worth beans. So I had to get back on the heavy bag, man. But he's a great guy, and taught me.
That was a long time ago. He was-
George, that's my middle name, man. I can spell that one. Starts with a G. God bless you, man. Dog collar match.
Yeah, the place closed down.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think Vince passed away.
Weren't they? There's so much more heart and fun put in it. That's business.
Remember he had the sign on the wall, it said no chrome, no something, just iron or something in Vince's.
Iron Man's gym.
Yeah, can we get a picture?
Please,
Thanks.
my privilege.
Thanks a lot. Good to see you. Take care. Okay.
Hey, Jim, how you doing, Mike? My pleasure. My pleasure. You born and raised in California? Austin. Holy cow, that's a tough town now. Boy, so what ladies do you have waiting for you outside? Boston, wow. I understand why they threw the T in now since I fought there. Tough crowd.
Listen on the radio. I think that has a shot at maybe more.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on a Howard Stern show in about 4 days. And I'm going to rip Howard and Vince in the orifice. Make me show my chest. He ain't going to do nothing to me. But old Howard, what he's saying is he wants his bodyguards in the studio, and I can't bring none in. It's truth. It's on in like 5 or 6 days. I don't know what it is. So I'm thinking, listen, Howard, I won't brag or nothing, but I have over 7,000 fights. If you're sitting here and I'm sitting there and they're 5 feet away, you're dead before they get here. So what's the point? But I intend to. There's WWE. We may have kids here, so I intend to clean it up. I've already today I FedExed a book and a letter to Vince McMahon saying, Vince, I'm coming after you, one way or the other. We're gonna do it 2 ways. At the end of this, we can have a debate, and you bring your place around so that it accommodates the children of America that are having a tough enough time, or I'm gonna bury you. And I've told him that in the letter. I swear to you today. And if he gives me an answer, fine. If he doesn't matter, because I'm still gonna bury him. If he wants to come up and You know, I made more mistakes than everybody in this room put together, and some I made up. And if he wants to put up his hand and say, hey, okay, you know, I got a little out there and change around, fine. If he doesn't, I made you, I break you, man. You bet you will. You bet you. Sure? I won't hurt you. You bet you. Okay, well, he was a sleeper. We got a couple of rules with a sleeper. First of all, nobody gets hurt. Have you had insomnia, son? How long have you had? You have a coach here right down here. Gosh, you got your $100, and they always bill in front. Well, the key is with sleeper, if you feel any discomfort, you gotta trust me. If you pat, I'll let go right away. Okay, are you sure you want to do this, man?
Just long enough for him to get a picture.
Okay, just, you know, I don't know if you're gonna flail like a dolphin or, you know, drop like a fainting goat, you know? Just relax now. Relax, okay. Whoa, go to sleep. No. That was the other one. You tell me when you're God bless you, man. I got a great voice. God bless you, man. I didn't appreciate it.
No.
Good, I just wanted to bring you over. Got you. Matter of fact, you could have got out of what you're thinking. God bless you. Hey, champ, how you doing? The darn thing, you know, I got a Rolex, so don't keep time. You know, you put it down, it stops because it's self-winding. No, but I'll think about it, you know, but the Timex does well. That's rich. Okay, so dog collar. To Jason. What are you doing over there, guy? See, for me, the pressure's off. I've done it. I don't have to fight no more. I'm so happy because I'm a coward, man. What are we talking about? Dog collar match? How you doing, bud? You gonna be my tag partner, man? You look terrific. God bless you. You look like you make a great one. You got family? Oh, beautiful. Any babies? God bless you, man. Tell you, first kid gonna change your life, man. For the better. Yes, I came fifth in the world playing the bagpipes. Are you serious? Well, God bless you. Are you taking lessons? Get yourself a chanter, and you have your chanter. And I don't know why I had a knack for him. I was born on I lived on an Indian reservation. I don't know why I played a bagpipe. I can't imagine the Cherokee dancing on a fire playing a bagpipes. And nobody can tell me because my circumstances, and so couldn't give me the guitar and become Paul McCartney. No, give me a kilt and bagpipes and Roddy Piper. You know, God has a sense of humor.
How was it to wrestle Superfly?
Oh man, that's a good one, man. You might play Superfly. He really did. Tell you a story about him. God, we were family. We had one Christmas. So this dog called her Superfly. Hi, Jim. How are you, sir? God bless you. There was the Tyrannosaurus Rex beef marks just weren't quite dry yet when I started. I've been around. I learned. Been around, geez, forever.
Not forever, as long as I've been around. Forever. One of my favorite memories of you when I was a kid, and I mean, none of my parents were big dealers. My dad was in New York, I grew up in Boston. My mom hated it. My mom was like, you can't watch that ever. My stepdad, he hated it too. So she literally had to get her students, she was teaching, to take me to shows so I could go see you. And one of my favorite memories, Boston Garden, 20-man battle royal. The This is back like around the 91ers when John Tenta won.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then he came running out with the chainsaw at the end to get him out. It killed me.
I had
It killed
John
me.
Tenda's 420 pounds. I mean, a chainsaw. A lot easier than fighting him, so here I come, man.
I've never seen a big man fly like that out of the ring. I think he was really scared.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, did he win his game?
You know, he soiled himself. I had nothing to lose with it. I was going to get beat up one way or the other. God bless you. Thank you for being so kind.
I got one from my best friend. I'm wondering if you personalize it.
Yes, sir.
This is for Brian.
What was Snooker? Snooker, and I'm trying to keep up with it. Let's just start with Snooker. Snooker is unbelievable, man. A little history. When Hogan first tried to, they tried to push him down everybody's throat. I always get a shot in him when I can.
I wanted you to do something snooker. This is for my best friend Brian.
You betcha.
I hope this hits you like a coconut to the head.
Okay, you got it.
We try to outdo each other with presents, and I don't.
That's really cool, man. God bless them. That's a good one. Like I hope this hits you over there. I did it. Run spot, run. C. Jane. That's what I'm working on now for the last 48 years. Great reader. And Hogan couldn't get over because Jimmy Snooker was so hot and was so great. And you want to take a picture, Jim? My pleasure. See, where that bike was hung up?
Come on, you get a hug.
That's a
Everybody's getting a hug, and then you get a hug. I'm feeling left out now. I get a hug, and I get
Tell him, hey, I didn't get my hug.
Is that right? You did great. You look great. Healthy man. Good looking guy. Go kick some ass. What the hell is what they say is wrong. Like Nick Jagger. So, Jimmy Snoop. Roger Daltrey, yes. Roger Daltrey, that was. That's another one. You had no idea who that was either. What's another one I gave you that you didn't know? He's got food down. I'm feeding him. This is Nate Nickerson. I'm sorry, guys. This young gentleman here, one of the problems with the book that I've made recognition of is this is a 16-year-old boy, man, and poor man. And he's 16. He comes out of a camp here, the UPW, and he's been training. But really, he's a real digger-inner, and I asked him to come on this tour because one of the things is I'm being asked to teach people how to wrestle. I never taught anybody ever in my life how to wrestle, and I brought him on this tour to show him. The same way with Lewis. Lewis wants to wrestle, and turn around, champ, if you wouldn't mind. This is Frats. This is just a T-shirt I made up. These guys here, center of healing for the soul, for the mind. That these guys, all my frat brothers are dead. You killed them. I'll tell you how one guy died here. I'm gonna pick one. Turn around the other way. You're supposed to do what I say. Easiest one. Junkyard. Oh, that's a tough one, man. Junkyard, from manipulation, there's this chapter in this book called The Sickness, and the equation for the sickness is the amount of sickness in the wrestler is directly proportional to the amount of manipulation from the promoter. Junkyard Dog was manipulated so bad that he died of unnecessary causes. Left his family. Bruiser Brody, I can give you that one a lot clearer. Bruiser Brody, I wouldn't take a dive for Hogan. I wouldn't take a dive for Mr. T. I wouldn't, whatever my ego is.
There's nothing to do with ego. The Bruiser Brody, Frank Goodish's his name. He goes over to San Juan. San Juan, they got a baseball stadium that you wrestle in, and it's just a professional baseball stadium. There's 2 dressing rooms. They're made out of concrete. There's no windows. It's San Juan. It's warm, so it's wrestling. Bruiser Brody's there. I learned from Bruiser Brody, we're a different breed. We don't sit and eat with promoters, and so he's in the dressing room. Whatever the problem was with his opponent that night, Jose Gonzalez, all of a sudden the dressing room emptied where Bruiser was. Well, Jose Gonzalez comes over, stabs him. He didn't die of a stab wound. He laid on the concrete. Nobody came in, and I don't know what does it take a guy 3, 4, 5 minutes to bleed to death. He bled to death, and he left his little boy and his wife, and the whole thing was over. A wrestling finish. And this guy, 2 weeks later, his name's Jose Gonzalez. His wrestling name is the Masked Invader. I'm watching on CNN, and he's going to court with his wrestling mask on. He gets in court and he gets off on self-defense. He's the promoter. I don't know about you, but I think that's murder. You know, that's just a real one that I can just lay on the line to you. There's a lot of other ones in the book. I don't mean to, I'll try to bring you back up here so we don't not all committing suicide here. But I know I was sick, real bad sick, from the way I'm explaining to Kerry Von Erich. I stood in the 8th. I got goof, man. You get going hard, you know what they do with you, man, is they wear you down. I had one time, I had 90 fights in a row, 90 days, and they get to you, they tear you down physically, and then they play games with you emotionally, and they're tearing you down physically, playing games with you emotionally constantly, and you're constantly trying to get to the top, and they got that donkey carrot thing, and well, if I'm a little bigger, if I'm a little broader, if I'm a little more of this, and before you know it, boom, you're dead. And some of them, they just manipulate them. They did this to me one time, just a small example. I wasn't getting along with Vince, and so I'd gone like 31 days. I come home, I got 4 days off, and I look at the booking sheet and it says Portland's running. I live in Portland, hallelujah, and just the night before I was supposed to go on the road, I just took a look at it again, and 2 Portlands were running. I was booked in Portland, Maine, and he just did it on purpose. So you got to understand what Portland, Maine, you son of an unnamed goat, you know, and I all the way, it's 8 hours from me on drive. I was flying to Portland, Maine, thinking, you know, all right, I started out with whiskey and I could blow his house up. No, it's not good enough. I could just take him, fall him with a crowbar, like, give me another whiskey. By the time I got to Portland of Maine, I was useless. I would have drawn a house in Portland, Oregon, but they just did that to mess with me. I'd been trained well enough, though, not to let them know that it got to me, et cetera, et cetera. That's why these guys are dead. Well, we got a healing center now. They don't got to die no more. And that's one of the purposes of the book, and it's already done. How am I supposed to tell Nate how to wrestle? Well, I'm going to take, if he gets in the WWE, they're going to ask Rikishi to sit on his face. Are you out of your mind? You don't got that kind of money, baby. You know, I'll put my right hand up, have a fudgicle for a week and a half. Sure, you ribbon me. I mean, all right, yeah. They wouldn't even ask me that. The fact of getting somebody to do it, I apologize. Thank you. I go over 4 generations, so. Oh, you're beautiful. You're just like your mom. You take care of her. She's a precious. She's still got God dust on you. You know that? You're so cute. Yeah, I'll take a picture. Thank you very much. We need to take you out for dinner then. Make compensation. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. And thank you. You have a wonderful festive season. Thank you for doing so much. Every one of them. Chavo, Mondo. I even fought his dad. I just don't think I didn't fight with his mother. She's probably the one who could have beat me too. Oh, to John.
What was it talking about?
What was it like being on the end of Superfly's head?
Gotcha, Superfly. Okay, so Hogan couldn't get over because Jimmy Snuka was so hot. He said, well, come on, it's worth here. Huh? So Jimmy Snuka, they needed to get rid of Jimmy Snuka. And Jimmy Snuka at that time was accused of killing a lady, allegedly. And I don't know anything about that. And they wanted, because Jimmy came from a culture that is very simple and honest and trusting. And so there's this cage match they finally built into Don Morocco versus Superfly. He did the greatest move I've ever seen personally in professional wrestling. Jimmy Snuka, first of all, I hated him. He looked great. He had muscles in his cheeks. And, I'm sitting here, I'm coming out, yeah, I'm going to kick you, you know. So Jimmy comes on. He's got Don Morocco. He gets up in Madison Square Garden on the steel cage, and he's standing in a corner. It's just like, what do you figure with the apron? You're about 32 feet in the air. And instead, like only Jimmy could do, and as he gets his balance on his cage and his bare feet up the wire, he's squatting down, and he just comes straight up, and he lets his head go back like that. The cameras in Madison Square Garden is just going, you're blinded. And then when he come from here, he looked down at Morocco. Bent his knees like this, and he just leaped into the air. And he must have leaped 2-3 feet off the cage, and he come like that, and the cameras, and wham, down on Morocco, and tore Morocco's leg up. But they had Morocco sneak out of the door first, which technically Jimmy lost. So after Jimmy Snuka Superfly did the most incredible move in wrestling, they give him a loss, the people go, oh, and they slip Hogan in. And that's how they got rid of Jimmy. Then they give him to me. Jeez, man. And he wasn't a happy camper after the coconut. Piper's Pit. Piper's Pit. Oh, jeez, come on.
You know that was coming?
Piper's Pit?
No, the coconut.
I'll tell you, it's a true story on that, man. As opposed to the lie. I hate somebody who says that, right? Let me be honest this time. Yeah, I didn't steal your wallet. Yes. Cool. Piper's Pit. What happened was Vince McMahon's father hired me, and Junior was just like Shane running around. You know, get away, get out of here, you little brat. And so they decided they're going to take over the world. And what happened? The old man came in, and he went and got all the rebels. Pat, that's good, strong Irish name. He got all the rebels that he could find, which were guys that were hired guns that would work for any promoter anytime, had no loyalty, as opposed to the main body of wrestlers. And so what happened was we had about 30 of us: Schultz, Orndorff, Morocco, Fuji, Andre, Hogan, who's who, I don't know, anybody else you want to name. And there would be like a 2-minute and 54 second, that's a standard interview. And they'd have 4 guys, all, you know, ready to cut each other's throat. And God bless you, man. And where do you come from? Where are you born? Right from California, and you going to school?
Yeah, I'm finishing.
Archaeology? God bless you, man. Take my hat off to you. Any idiot can fight. Take somebody with some brains to figure out what the world's doing. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you for coming. What the hell's this?
4 guys, interview, 4 guys.
Oh yeah, so 4 guys here. So one time, there's like Schultz. You remember Schultz? He's the guy that slapped John Stoss. Would you let me just get through the line first?
No.
No, okay. 'Cause, you know, somebody may have.
Dr. Dave David.
Yeah, but how about the guy back there? Yeah,
Very
hey,
last
if you're
guy.
gonna just come whip up, I'll run it off for you guys. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, an honest man. How you doing? Good. How'd you get your finger in the electric socket? That actually happened to me. I got electrocuted right here in the sports arena. Yeah, shot. God bless you. Great looking kids. How old are you, bud?
30.
Man, you
Grew up every Saturday, Piper's Pit.
God bless you. I have a family.
No.
No? Smart decision. Save yourself $1 million a kid there just to get him out of high school. Not me. I kept going, you're what? You're what? You're what? You're what? Oh, that's a story about Pedro Morales. Ah, that's a good one. Yeah, you betcha shit. Excuse me. I used to be able to walk in myself.
Great, thank you very much. Audio slate? Thank you. Both of your books. Okay.
So there'd be like, Orange Schultz, he's the guy who slapped Stossel standing about 10 feet away. Do you remember him slapping Stossel? Schultz slapping.
Yep,
So
2020.
this is what happened. This is a true story about that. Stossel heard trains in his ears. I hear that every day. And so Stossel, he's doing something else, and one of his cronies are trying to, they're going with Schultz back and forth, and, his wrestling phony, and Schultz is just burying him. Stossel sees it, and he just like this says, break it down, give it to me. Boom, says, okay, turn it on. He says, goes to Schultz, he says, so, is wrestling phony or not? Whack! Bam! You find that phony, boy? Whack! Boom! And the guy started to say, Mom! Stossel, I'll stand it from you. Mom! Sorry, got the wrong guy. I'm out of here, baby. Do I look like your mom, huh? Yeah. And so there's Schultz, Orndorff, like man of war, and, skinny me. And they're there, and they're blocking the camera, and there's literally these times when I had to go in there, and they would, like, whip it off to 5 seconds left, and I just grabbed them by the shoulders. I jumped right over, and I went, Roddy Piper, legend killer. And I had the T-shirt. I would cover their faces, and I got, well, okay, this is too hard. Wait a second. So I got Vince McMahon at a bar one time in St. Louis, and I says, listen, you give me a bow tie and a mic stand in 5 weeks, I don't get over, I'll get out. That's how Piper's Pit was invented. Nothing premeditated. I'm not smart enough to premeditate anything.
What about the Kogan?
The coconut. Oh, that's what you asked me, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, the coconut. Thanks, bud. Well, that's one thing I'm not real proud of. Back then in those days, it looked like a lot of fun, but, you have to ask the equation that how does a wrestler my size stay in main event for 28 years? Something must be real about it, you cocky son of a gun. I thought I knew so much back there until I had children. I got to, So, it was at Allentown, and I think Allentown or Harrisburg, one of the things. It was in the morning. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I got 3 Piper's Pits to do that night, and 2 wrestling matches. So Chief Jay Strongbow comes up to me. He was a very famous guy in New York. And he got a big pot belly, because Chief Jay Strongbow, you see, he wouldn't spend a dime. What he would do is he'd wait till the concessions broke down, closed, and then he'd go and get their leftover hot dogs every night. And he says, Rodney, he says, have you ever hit anybody with a coconut? Just let me give out my book here, Chief. Backdrop, $15. No, got nothing under the seats. And that's all he said. The pit was about 7 o'clock at night. About 6:30, a guy come in, and he had a bag of groceries. He had pineapples, he had bananas, and he had coconuts. And I swear to you, there's a Muhammad Ali story like this too. I swear to you, they told me that. They said Jimmy knew. Oh, I thought Jimmy knew. So, me not being from Fiji, I asked one of the stupid questions in the world that I've ever asked, Jimmy, have you ever held a coconut? I'm from Fiji, bro. All right, here we go. So I got this bag of groceries, I'm shopping, and here I come, and I'm talking about his grandmother selling seashells on the seashore so he can suntan on the beach and pay, free rent, and I'm going, and I drop the pineapple, and I drop another one, I drop some bananas, and I drop the first coconut, and it goes, boom, 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 boom. Holy cow. I'm looking at Jimmy kind of like, no chemistry there yet. One more, bum, 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 bum. And I'm looking, and I figure, and I got 4 coconuts left, and I pick it up one, and I wasn't getting a high sign or nothing. And all right, and pow, and that coconut, boom, I gave it everything I could. And I don't know, but I know this,
he went down the set, and I took off a belt, and I was whipping him. People would think I was torturing him. I was keeping him down till I got the hell out of there. And then I heard he went back to his dressing room, and for 15 minutes, he just sat and stared at the floor. People couldn't communicate with him, and the guy had never been the same. It hurt him bad, and you know, this is true. Damn that traffic jam.
Love you, man.
I love you too.
My brother just thought you were the greatest.
Yeah.
Saying how he said you were the best bad guy, that you weren't really a good guy because you had too much of an antagonistic.
My wife says I can be the greatest jerk in the world when I want to be.
And this is to my brother,
You betcha. Is your brother younger or older?
older. So we always wrestled. We broke beds, chairs,
Oh,
walls.
Mom must have loved me.
Oh, yeah. If you could say that his brother's still a better wrestler than he is. Sibling rivalry, absolutely.
Can still beat you. He says so. So when you hand it to him, it'll be 2 out of 3.
Exactly.
2. God bless you.
So much. Take care of yourself.
Give that brother a big hug,
I
okay?
will. Thank you.
What an honor, a living legend, that isn't me. It isn't me. I just wanted to tell you, I want to tell something that I think would be good. I'm a pretty old guy. I grew up in a place called the Olympic Auditorium in 18th and Grand. And this great man was just starting out. And he was wrestling with another guy named Adrian Adonis, although at that time, if I'm not wrong, he wasn't going by Adrian Adonis. Right. And basically, this is like a million years ago. I mean, this is when Judy Garland was in her prime.
Yeah, but Brittany was born, I think.
And basically, what I wanted to say, even though his name isn't on that shirt and it's not a good story, I thought you might like to tell people, you know, wrestling is great and it's Gorgeous George, everybody owes him, but this is a business where a promoter can kill you without touching you, and that's what happened to Adrian Adonis. And if I'm wrong, Roddy will correct me. He was killed by a promoter who never touched him. Am I right?
He's the last guy I did a eulogy. The last funeral I attended, I refused to attend anymore. And yeah, he's killed. He left 3 beautiful little children. And you're right. You know, I don't know what else what to say, but where I come from, no retreat, no surrender. And they're my frat brothers. And somebody's got to do something, huh? Even if I lose, it's like the IRA. At least they kept trying. You know, I ain't afraid of Vince McMahon, man, not at all, man.
The only McMahon I like is Stephanie.
She was such a cute little girl. I did a Halloween skit with her when she was 8, and I dropped a bowling ball in her bag. But, you know, stole her candy, actually. But she was such a sweet little girl.
She wasn't devious at 8, right?
No, she still had got dust on her.
Got big boobs.
I just want you to release that and put the date. Yeah. But I knew he wasn't going by Keith Frank. You know?
Chopping bricks in the back.